Welcome back to The Rose and Romantic. I'm Bree, and today we're going to talk about where modern rom-coms are going wrong. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. Also, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. So grab your drinks, grab your snacks, and let's chat. Romance in TV movies in the 2020s is struggling right now, and we're seeing across the board, especially what we saw with Materialist. Now, we did see that they did well in the box office and people are talking about it, but it's not a romantic movie staple. And we're seeing that with a lot of films, a lot of TV shows, and it's getting concerning because of all the films, I would say, that are really standing out, or TV shows in the 2020s in romance would be One Day and Queen Charlotte. So those connect with a lot with, you know, the writing, and of course One Day was a book, and we developed that, and also a movie. So they had a lot to draw on. Shonda Rhimes, we had Grey's Anatomy, Still Star-Crossed, a multitude of what she has done. Oh, Scandal. She can write romance, okay? She's going to deliver.
I'm a lady in distress. You refuse to help a lady in distress?
I refuse when that lady in distress is trying to go over a wall so that she does not have to marry me.
As I live and breathe.
But the only thing that's really standing out right now is fan fiction. I like a fan fiction movie every once in a while. You know, I love a fanfic, you know, because it can be silly and wild, and there's no, is that really realistic? You're like, who cares? It's a super fantasy, right? So I started to really think about this when I saw the Rotten Tomatoes score for The Materialist versus My Fault London. Now, this isn't the critic score, this is the popcorn meter, okay? Here's the popcorn meter for My Fault London. Okay, anybody want to guess? Throw out a couple numbers there. See if you can guess what the popcorn meter stands for My Fault London.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Right now, you ready? It's sitting at 86%. Okay, you're like, okay, well, Bree, it was really popular, it was really fun, we had fast cars, and, you know, really funny, not funny.
Sometimes I'll start a sentence, and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way.
Really steamy, sexy scenes and things like that, you're like, it's fun. Okay, that's fair. Now, let's take a look at the Materialist popcorn meter. Again, this is not the critic score, but the popcorn meter is sitting at 67%. Make it make sense, because the movie that was projected, I mean, it's doing really well. You know, it's making money. That's good. You're making that successful, and is causing people to talk. There's been a lot of discussion about it on TikTok. But you would think that you're like, you got Pedro Pascal, you got Chris Evans, you got Dakota Johnson. You're thinking that this is going, everyone's saying like, oh, the rom-coms are really back and things like that. And it is making money and doing well in that regard. But when you're looking back on it as a romantic staple, I don't know if people are going to remember it as much as they would The Proposal or Love, Rosie. This is where I'm starting to look back. I'm like, we're in 2025. We are halfway through the 2020s. What are we doing with romance? And to think that, you know, a lot of people think that all romance is kind of, some people think, not all, okay, that romance is frivolous, it really doesn't have a place, but it really does, and we need to talk about it. So let's talk about the 4 things that Hollywood is struggling with in romance. Number 1 being, they're afraid to commit to the romance. Now, when you're looking back on, you know, great movie classics and looking at different romances like The Bodyguard or The Way We Were, It Happened One Night, they were not afraid to have the romance in the movie and have it at the forefront. Now, did every part of the movie have to have romance? No. But there are special intimate moments where you're thinking like the chemistry, you know, is doing well, the script, you know, is shining. That's what you want to see within the movie. And now it feels like Hollywood is holding back because they think that those romantic, intimate moments, and not steamy, sexy moments, okay, mind you, they'll put a whole lot of that in there, okay? They're like, oh, you know, this is really gonna sell the film, ooh. But they shy away from those like intimate conversations and people getting closer because they think that that's what's in. And yes, you know, those steamy, sexy scenes, so, you know, they have their place. But when you're substituting that for like actual conversation and people getting closer and having actual relationships on screen, then you're kind of missing the point.
I cannot watch this when I know what I know.
I know.
And it's interesting because when, you know, Pride and Prejudice reappeared and was, you know, back on the big screen, everyone was so like amazed by all, you know, all the different characters and, you know, how they're interacting as for Elizabeth and her family, and then Elizabeth and Darcy, and how much a scene can take with, you know, them talking about, you know, their lives and how they feel, and sometimes saying, you know, what they're scared or afraid of, and how they, you know, look in society. This right there brings in the romance. And sometimes they could just look at each other without saying anything, and you know exactly what the characters are conveying. Same thing that we had in Bend It Like Beckham with Joe and Jess. When they were, spoiler alert, okay, if you haven't seen it, and if you haven't seen Bend It Like Beckham, I highly recommend it because it's a great sports classic with, you know, it mainly focuses on friendship, but then we have like a dash of romance in there. But they're talking about their scars, and this is not something that is like, ooh, we had moonlight walk or a candlelit dinner, ooh. No, they're just having an honest conversation about what they've been through in their lives, and they're connecting. They're connecting on this emotional level, and that's what makes it, you know, romantic. That's how they, you know, kind of draw closer to one another. That is what we want. Also, when you think about that one scene in The Bear, okay, if you haven't seen The Bear, I highly suggest that too because it's a great show. Okay, seasons 3 and 4, they're struggling a little bit, but overall it's a great show. But y'all remember that scene under the table with Sydney and Carmi? And I know a lot of people aren't Sydney and Carmi fans, but there, you know, I know there's some people that are. That scene of them under the table, they are just connecting and sharing their, you know, their feelings, with, you know, they're scared or afraid of, and how they're so proud of one another and how they make each other better. And then some people were shocked by the fact, they're like, that's not romantic, that's, you know, they're just talking. What? You're talking about something that you're wearing your heart on your sleeve to someone? You know how hard it is that for some people? And that creates the romance. And sometimes I think people just think that romance is just the steamy, sexy scenes, or, you know, that it has to, you know, go out of the way where, you know, you're running down the street, you're running to the airport, those type of things, and they think that's going to ruin the show. Whereas when you're seeing a deepening of, you know, relationship and connection, that makes the show even richer.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to, you know, have that in your show or movie. Let those conversations happen. Let those intimate, really honest, heart-to-heart happen on screen, because the audience will buy it. The audience will see it. Once we saw the scene under the table, everyone was like, what? Did you see that? Did you see that? And then you saw that scene before with Carmi and the panic attack. Everybody's like that. Okay, that right there, that is romance.
That's all. Okay.
The second thing that they're struggling with is that they're too focused on the message of the film and not the story. And that's what happened with The Materialist that I'm seeing from a lot of people when they're talking about the film and the breakdown of the film, is that it gets too caught up in what it wants to say. And when you're focusing on the characters and the story, the message would take care of itself.
She's got a point.
So when you look back on films like My Best Friend's Wedding, Now, I don't want to give any spoilers, okay? If you haven't seen it, just want to let you know now. Okay, ready? At the end of the film, that she is by herself. Okay? Probably did that come to a shock to most? Maybe, because usually rom-coms end with, with the people together. But her realizing, hey, like, this relationship had its time and he's moved on and I'm gonna move on because, there's things about me that have changed, there's things about him that have changed, and I've come to accept that. So you see at the beginning of the film how she is, and she's trying to, sabotage his relationship and his marriage, potential marriage. And then by the end, she is confident. She is no longer thinking about like, oh, what if, this happens, and what if this happens and we never are together. She's like, I'm looking forward to the next chapter of my life. That in itself, the message it conveyed was like, okay, you don't have to, just because you fell in love with someone doesn't mean you can't fall in love again. And also you can fall in love with yourself again. And people are like, what? That is what people can draw from the film. And that's what's lovely about art, is that you get to talk with people and see, how they feel, and they'll have different messages that they take from the film, which happened in The Materialist. Like, a lot of people had a lot to say about the film, and they were talking about it, which is great. For Celine's song, for Past Lives, talking about that film, and for Materialist, like, people want to talk about art. That's exciting. But what you want to do in the art is have that story be complete, and then the message of the film can really drive home. Because if you're talking about, materialistic things in dating and how we're thinking about status all the time, that's not a new concept. Think about with Jane Austen. That was, dealing with their times. You can also talk about in the medieval times. Like, this has gone on over and over and over again, and you want to tell it in a new way. That's great. It's been done before. The key thing that makes it different is your characters.
Wow, that's an intriguing proposition.
The third thing that they're really struggling with are big names, no chemistry. For example, do y'all remember that film Ghosted with Chris Evans and Ana de Armas? You probably don't remember, because that movie, their chemistry was so not there at all. And when you feel in the film that the chemistry is almost ice cold, that's a problem. And it doesn't mean that the actors don't like each other. It doesn't mean that the actors don't have any talent, anything like that. No. If there's just no between the chemistry of the two characters. And you see that when you audition. You don't audition based on name, okay? And have people decide, be like, okay, those two hot people, we're gonna put them together and they're gonna have chemistry. It's gonna be great.
Cheeky.
And I think that's where they struggled with Materialist. Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, Pedro Pascal. I was watching the trailer, and you can see, the trailer I have here on the channel, my reaction to it, and I was like, I don't think there's any chemistry, y'all. I didn't see any chemistry between Dakota and Pedro's character, and then Dakota and Chris's character. That's a problem, that's an issue. And if you decide to say, hey, they're gonna have name recognition and they're gonna get people to come to the movie and it's gonna be so exciting. Yeah, but then when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, what am I watching it for? It would be like if they're like, okay, there's a new movie coming to town, so a new rom-com, and it's gonna be with Zendaya and Harris Dickinson. You'd be like, okay, they're two, good actors there, but do they have any chemistry? Did y'all even do a chemistry test? I don't know. That is where it's getting ridiculous. And now you're having, these great films with great scripts, and then the material, nothing's happening, nothing's clicking. It's just there. And when you see chemistry shine, okay, like we saw with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock in Speed, that's where you have movie magic. And that's where everybody was like, oh, they rave about the film. They're like, oh yeah. And that movie, again, was not a romance. That was an action. And still people to this day, well, mainly me, you know, me and a lot of other people talking about that romance for Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves, okay? And they're gonna do another action film, which I do need to see the script for that, because if y'all mess up that script for them, I'm gonna be mad at y'all. I'm gonna be really mad at y'all, because don't you fail them. Don't you do that. And last but not least, the fourth thing that they really need to work on is character development and character dimension. Because how many times throughout all these movies in the 2020s have I seen characters, there's absolutely no growth. And then you wonder, okay, why am I watching this then? Why am I seeing this character go through all these ups and downs when they're gonna start the same thing? Okay, they're gonna start out the same in the beginning and the same in the end. The only difference was a few scenes where you're like, oh, that person's really cute and I really like them and we're getting together, and then we're not together, and then we are together, and then in the end, that's wild. To put the audience through that and make us feel stupid. No, don't do that with your audience. Your audience is smart. Your audience will clock it, okay?
And this is something that I live by. And I always have. And I always will.
For instance, in +1, okay, if you haven't seen that film, there's another movie I'm recommending because it's so great. It's a great friends to lovers movie. But there's this scene where Ben is at Alice's family's house, and he is cooking with the family, he's talking with them, and you think that's just a simple scene. Like, you're like, oh, he's talking with her parents and things, and it doesn't add that much value in the movie. But when you see that Alice is letting her guard down and allowing him to connect with the family and her, that's big, that's huge, that is major character development for her. Instead of building up walls and blocking everything out, that's what you want to see, and that's when the audience feels rewarded and is like, hey, the character is actually doing work, they're actually moving forward. And then how are you going to have major epic love declarations and nothing has changed? If the other person is saying, like, you make me better and I want to be better and it's making me a better person, then that means you're changing throughout the duration of the film. If you are the same person you were in the beginning and the same person you are in the end, then did love even happen? Is this a love story? No. So that's what you need to work on this, Hollywood.
You like it?
Not at all.
You can leave.
Not a chance.
So have I lost all hope with rom-coms right now? No, I do have hope because I'm the rosy romantic. I do have hope, but I really want them to work on these things because the multitude of movies that are happening consistently like this, it's getting too much. So for movies like My Oxford Year, I think hopefully it will do well, especially the performance of Corey Milcreast and Sophia Carson, because I want to have a movie that I really think about and care about these characters and go back to those scenes once more. People We Meet on Vacation, I think it's coming out in January of next year. I really want that to do well too. And there are some movies in there, like with Mr. Malcolm's List, and with the characters played by Frida and Chopay. They did really well in that movie in convincing me that these two characters were meant to be, and they had great dialogue and dimension to the movie, and I can watch it over and over again. So not all hope is lost, okay? Again, I am the rosy romantic, but we need to do better. We need to do better because I know it's possible. So Hollywood, it's time to get to work. It's time to get to work, girl. And let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about rom-coms right now? What are your feelings on this? Let me know in the comments down below, because we need to chat. We need to talk, because it's been a lot. So let me know in the comments down below, and I hope you have a comfy and cozy rest of your day. Bye.